experiments on local lines, which ended after several hours in my finding myself deposited at a little out-of-the-way station within 9 or 10 miles of wet waste. As no convenience of any kind was to be had, I shouldered my portmanteau and set out on a long white road that stretched away into the distance over the bare treeless wold. I must have walked for several hours over a waste of moorland patched with heather, when a doctor passed me and gave me a lift to within a mile of my destination. The mile was a long one, and it was quite dark by the time I saw the feeble glimmer of lights in front of me and found that I had reached wet waste. I had considerable difficulty in getting anyone to take me in, but at last I persuaded the owner of the public house to give me a bed, and quite tired out, I got into it as soon as possible, for fear he should change his mind, and fell asleep to the sound of a little stream below my window. I was up early next morning, and inquired directly after breakfast the way to the clergyman's house, which I found was close at hand. At Wet Waste, everything was close at hand. The whole village seemed composed of a straggling row of one-storied grey stone houses, the same colour as the stone walls that separated the few fields enclosed from the surrounding waste, and as the little bridges over the beck that ran down one side of the grey wide street. Everything was grey. The church, the low tower of which I could see at a little distance, seemed to have been built of the same stone. So was the parsonage when I came up to it, accompanied on my way by a mob of rough, uncouth children, who eyed me and Brian with half-defiant curiosity. The clergyman was at home, and after a short delay I was admitted. Leaving Brian in charge of my drawing materials, I followed the servant into a low-panelled room, in which, at a latticed window, a very old man was sitting. The morning light fell on his white head, bent low over a litter of papers and books. "Mr. he said, looking up slowly with one finger keeping his place in a book. "Blake." "Blake," he repeated after me, and was silent. I told him that I was an architect, that I had come to study a fresco in the crypt of his church, and asked for the keys. "The crypt," he said, pushing up his spectacles and peering hard at me. "The crypt has been closed for 30 years, ever since—" and he stopped short. "I should be much obliged for the keys," I said again. He shook his head. "No," he said, "no one goes in there now." "It is a pity," I remarked, "for I have come a long way with that one object." And I told him about the paper I had been asked to read, and the trouble I was taking with it. He became interested. "Ah," he said, laying down his pen and removing his finger from the page before him. "I can understand that. I also was young once, and fired with ambition. The lines have fallen to me in somewhat lonely places, and for 40 years I have held the cure of souls in this place, where truly I have seen but little of the world, though I myself may not be unknown in the paths of literature. Possibly you may have read a pamphlet, written by myself, on the Syrian version of the 3 authentic epistles of Ignatius." "Sir," I said, "I am ashamed to confess that I have not time to read even the most celebrated books. My one object in life is my art. Art longa, vita brevis, you know." "You are right, my son," said the old man, evidently disappointed, but looking at me kindly. "There are diversities of gifts, and if the Lord has entrusted you with a talent, look to it. Lay it not up in a napkin." I said I would not do so if he would lend me the keys of the crypt. He seemed startled by my recurrence to the subject and looked undecided. "Why not?" he murmured to himself. "The youth appears a good youth, and superstition, what is it but distrust in God?" He got up slowly, and taking a large bunch of keys out of his pocket, opened with one of them an oak cupboard in the corner of the room. "They should be here," he muttered, peering in, "but the dust of many years deceives the eye. See, my son, if among these parchments there be 2 keys, one of iron and very large, and the other steel and of a long thin appearance." I went eagerly to help him, and presently found in a back drawer 2 keys tied together, which he recognized.